Okay, so back over Labor Day weekend, our girl Piper was in a pretty terrible car accident, and she's been in the hospital fighting for her life.
There are plenty of shows about mechanics building mind-blowing cars and trucks, but fans of Diesel Brothers will tell you this one was different. These trucks weren't just big, they were beasts that looked like they could roll over anything in their path. At the heart of it all were two friends, Heavy D and Diesel Dave, men who poured tens of thousands of dollars into every build, transforming ordinary trucks into unstoppable machines. But what if all that horsepower and fame were just the surface? What if, behind the engines and the laughter, there was a side of Diesel Dave's life that no fan would ever want to experience? This is the heartbreaking tragedy of Diesel Dave. We almost lost him. It was a few years back when Heavy D uploaded a video revealing something the Diesel Brothers had kept secret for nearly 3 years. In that clip, he said words that made every fan's heart stop. "I almost lost my best friend." That best friend was Diesel Dave. So, what really happened? Heavy D had always been obsessed with snowcats, those massive resort groomers weighing nearly 20,000 pounds, stretching 16 feet wide, powered by engines pushing over 300 horsepower. These beasts are designed to climb impossible slopes and carve paths through walls of snow. He also owned a mountain cabin up near Farmington Peak in Utah. During the summer, it was easy to reach by road, but once winter came, that same road turned into a death trap. The Forest Service would close it down completely because of the danger. Along that road was one stretch so deadly it bordered on suicidal, carved into a cliffside, with a 500-foot rock wall towering above and nearly a 1,000-foot drop below. The path was barely 12 feet wide, often less, and during winter, snow buried it entirely, with drifts piling 10 to 20 feet high until the road vanished beneath the white. But Heavy D, being the fearless man he was, didn't avoid the danger. He challenged it. He brought snowcats up there to carve trails for snowmobilers and skiers. And in January of 2018, he and Diesel Dave decided to take their families on that same adventure. At that point, Heavy D had 2 snowcats, one old gray one and a brand new red piston bully he had just bought at auction. Heavy D had done this many times before, but for Diesel Dave, it was one of his first chances to handle a snowcat on his own. On January 27, 2018, they loaded up their families, kids and all, and rode up the trail to the cabin. They spent the night there, and the next day decided to take on the most dangerous part of the route, the cliffside drift. Heavy D climbed into the red piston bully with his 7-year-old daughter, Charlie, and Diesel Dave beside him. The gray cat followed behind. Everything started smoothly. The red beast pushed through the deep snow, cutting a path through the drifts. But then, without warning, the slope above shifted. A drift collapsed. Snow came crashing down, and the red cat tilted sideways toward the 1,000-foot drop. In seconds, the machine was hanging partly over the cliff. The 3 inside froze, not daring to move a muscle, afraid their slightest shift would send it tumbling. They shut down the engine and made the choice to hike back to the cabin through waist-deep snow. Diesel Dave sprinted ahead for help, while Heavy D and little Charlie followed, yelling into the dark to scare off coyotes that prowled nearby. When Diesel Dave reached the cabin, he discovered the gray snowcat's battery was dead. They managed to jump-start it, left the kids safely behind, and went back out into the freezing night to rescue the red one. When they arrived, it was still teetering on the edge. The plan was to hook a heavy chain between both snowcats, using the gray one as an anchor to pull the red one back to safety. For a moment, it looked like it might actually work. The gray cat dug in, the chain tightened, and slowly the red cat began to crawl back onto the trail. Then suddenly, the chain snapped. The red cat jerked violently, twisted sideways, and started sliding down the mountain, with Diesel Dave still inside. Heavy D could only watch as the 20,000-pound machine spun and vanished into darkness. The last thing he saw were the headlights glaring at him before disappearing over the edge. At that moment, Heavy D thought he had just watched his best friend die. He dropped to his knees and screamed into the night, begging God to spare Dave's life. Then came the choice: try to climb down the deadly cliff himself or drive around to the bottom. A small voice in his mind told him clearly, drive. So he did. Meanwhile, inside the Red Cat, Diesel Dave was living through what should have been his last few seconds. He hadn't buckled his seatbelt, something that usually means disaster, but this time it saved him. As the snowcat flipped, the windshield popped out and Dave was thrown free. Instead of being crushed inside, he was tossed into the snow, tumbling violently down the slope until he stopped, half buried and dazed. Realizing that Heavy D might try to climb down to save him, and likely die trying, Dave fumbled for his phone. You might think, how could he possibly call anyone in that situation? But somehow, his phone had service. Up above, Heavy D's phone buzzed. Seeing Diesel Dave's name flash on the screen, he froze. It couldn't be real. He had just watched his friend fall. But when he answered, a faint voice said, "I think I'm okay." Heavy D drove the gray cat around the trail, across a frozen pond, and then ran uphill through chest-deep snow. At the bottom of the slope, he saw broken glass, twisted metal, and the shattered remains of the red piston bully scattered across the snowfield. Then he heard it, Dave's voice calling out. Somehow, Diesel Dave had been thrown clear of the wreck and had landed in soft snow instead of the frozen pond below. If anything had gone differently, he would have been gone. It was nothing short of a miracle. But even after the relief of finding Dave alive, their work wasn't over. They still had to recover the wrecked red snowcat. The team spent days trying, using chains, winches, and every bit of strength they had. At one point, the cat even fell through the ice on the pond. They pulled it out piece by piece, often by hand in brutal cold, that ruined their gear and nearly gave them hypothermia. For Heavy D, the sight of his best friend disappearing into the black abyss was something he would never forget. And for Diesel Dave, lying half buried in snow and thinking of his daughters as the freezing silence closed in, life would never be the same. That night, the night they almost lost everything, would become one of the defining moments of their story. Who are the Diesel brothers? So, who exactly are the Diesel brothers? First things first, despite the name, they aren't biological brothers. They're a crew of 4 big-hearted, bearded friends from Utah who share one common obsession: diesel trucks. The team includes David Heavy D Sparks, David Diesel Dave Kiley, Keaton the Muscle Hoskins, and Joshua Redbeard Stewart. It all began with Heavy D. He started a small diesel truck dealership where he bought, repaired, and sold old broken-down trucks. At first, it was just a regular business, but soon the builds became more daring, more creative, and far more ambitious. Heavy D and Diesel Dave began filming their work, posting short clips on Facebook and YouTube to draw in customers. But they didn't just show wrenches and engines. They added pranks, jokes, and fun moments that made viewers laugh and stay hooked. Before long, their videos started going viral. One of them gained so much attention that it landed the crew on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Imagine that, a small Utah truck shop suddenly standing under bright studio lights on national TV. That appearance changed everything. Discovery Channel quickly noticed the buzz and offered them their own show. In January of 2016, Diesel Brothers premiered on Discovery, and viewers were instantly addicted. Each episode showcased the guys buying, rebuilding, and sometimes even blowing up trucks in the most outrageous ways possible. They became famous for transforming everyday pickups into mind-blowing diesel monsters, and often gave those creations away to fans. By 2019, the show had exploded in popularity, earning a 6th season by December. Then, in 2020, they kicked it up another level with a 3-hour special called Diesel Brothers Monster Jam, breaking world records, where they took their trucks to limits no one had ever imagined. But the excitement didn't stop there. The Diesel Brothers tackled wild, over-the-top projects every season. Heavy D once took a beat-up rock crawler and rebuilt it from scratch just to flip it over for fun. Another time, they were commissioned to create a 1,000-gallon fuel truck and custom fertilizer spreaders for a helicopter company. At the same time, Heavy D was busy trying to restore a wrecked overland camper he'd imported from Europe, hoping to turn it into a massive payday. The shop's creativity didn't end with trucks. Sam, one of the crew members, even built a hub-centric diesel-powered bicycle from leftover parts in the shop. And when professional off-road racer R.J. Anderson brought in his brand-new Ford Raptor for upgrades, the Diesel brothers were ready to take it to another level. They even faced off against rival custom shops like Goon's Garage and Welder Up in thrilling head-to-head competitions. Of course, not every project went according to plan. Heavy D once attempted to build a Cummins-swapped K5 Blazer with a matching trailer for a client, but that project fell apart midway. Meanwhile, Sam assembled what they jokingly called the most dangerous mini bike ever. Still, whether things went right or terribly wrong, they always found a way to make it hilarious and exciting for their fans. There were highlights too, like when they converted an old K5 Blazer and truck bed into the ultimate diesel party wagon. Diesel Dave also brought his beloved El Camino roaring back to life with Heavy D's help. And for one of their biggest undertakings, Heavy D went all out, building a SEMA 6x6 truck equipped with a custom track system that could handle just about any terrain. At the same time, Diesel Dave finally completed his dream El Camino and proudly revealed it at Monster Jam. So what made fans love them so much? It wasn't just the incredible machines, it was the chemistry, the jokes, the wild ideas, and the friendship that powered it all. As Redbeard once said, "People love it," and Heavy D summed it up best. You wouldn't think there are millions of people out there who love diesel trucks, but there are. That's the Diesel Brothers story. Four friends who turned their passion for diesel trucks into viral fame, a hit TV show, and a worldwide fan base. And if you're wondering how this brotherhood began, buckle up, because their origin story is just as wild as their builds. How Diesel Dave and David Sparks became the Diesel Brothers. David Sparks and David Kiley, better known to millions as Heavy D and Diesel Dave, like to joke about how their friendship began. It didn't start at a truck show or in a mechanic's garage. In fact, the two first met at a church event for singles. The purpose of that gathering was to meet women, but instead, Sparks and Kiley found each other. That unusual meeting turned into a lifelong friendship and a business partnership that would later grow into a multi-million-dollar brand recognized around the world. Their base of operations is in Salt Lake City, Utah, where they've built a full-blown business empire. Sparks Motors serves as the main workshop where all their diesel creations are built. Diesel Power Gear became their lifestyle and apparel brand, offering truck parts and clothing for fans. And then there's Diesel Sellers, their online marketplace designed specifically for buying and selling diesel trucks. Each company feeds into the others, creating a powerful business network tied together through one passion: diesel power. One thing that sets their builds apart is their use of military-grade components. Fans of the show have seen trucks equipped with 2.5-ton axles and 6-wheel drive systems, the kind of parts you'd expect on a military transport, not a pickup. According to Sparks, these aren't just for show, they're used because they can survive the toughest conditions. Even more surprising, they often buy these parts at a fraction of their original cost. For example, a surplus military axle for about $500, even though the government once paid tens of thousands for it. Naturally, people began to wonder whether these guys had served in the military themselves. Neither Sparks nor Kiley did, but their families have deep military roots. Diesel Dave once tried to join the armed forces as a helicopter pilot, but was rejected due to a shoulder injury. Sparks' father served in the Air Force, his grandfather in the Army, and his brother in the Marines. Though he respected their service, Sparks admits he never had the patience to take orders constantly. Instead, he believes they're doing their part for the country by creating jobs and building something that inspires people. To the casual diesel fan, switching from a standard Dana 60 axle to a 2.5-ton military axle sounds extreme, but Sparks explained that to him, a Dana 60 feels fragile, like a toothpick that can still snap, even after thousands of dollars in upgrades. A military axle, on the other hand, is practically unbreakable. Still, not every build uses those heavy-duty parts, even though the show sometimes makes it seem that way. Many fans also wonder how much of Diesel Brothers is real and how much is TV magic. Diesel Dave has always maintained that what viewers see is genuine. In fact, in the very first episode, a Duramax truck actually caught fire. Sparks later admitted they set things up so a fire could happen for dramatic effect, but the moment it got out of control, it was 100% real. He also explained that in reality TV, sometimes moments have to be recreated because cameras aren't always rolling when something wild happens. Still, safety has always been their top concern since everyone in the shop feels like family. Over the years, their business expanded to nearly 50 employees across their different branches. With that growth came pressure and plenty of challenges. Fans often ask if they take on personal custom builds, but Sparks revealed that it's tough because of their packed filming schedule. Every episode demands about 1.5 trucks, one that's fully completed for the show and another being prepped for the next episode. At one point, they were juggling 18 episodes at once. That's 27 trucks in progress simultaneously. The workload was enormous, but Sparks and Diesel Dave refused to repeat designs. They wanted every build to be unique, pushing creativity with every frame. That kind of passion helped them rise from small-town mechanics to international TV stars. But success always comes with a cost, and soon that cost arrived in the form of one of their biggest challenges yet: the Clean Air First Case. For years, the Diesel Brothers entertained millions with their larger-than-life builds, crazy stunts, and light-hearted humor. But behind the fame, a serious legal storm was brewing. In 2016, a group called Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, UPHE, a team of doctors concerned about air pollution, filed a lawsuit against them. The accusation? That the Diesel Brothers trucks were illegally modified to remove their pollution control systems. On TV and social media, fans had seen those trucks shooting huge black clouds of smoke from their exhaust pipes, a move known as rolling coal. While it looked fun to some, UPHE claimed it was making Utah's air far more toxic. The doctors explained that when a modern diesel truck's emission systems are tampered with, it can emit more than 30 times the pollution of a regular truck, roughly a 3,000% increase. That meant just one of those modified trucks could pollute as much as dozens of normal ones. They even compared it to the Volkswagen emissions scandal, saying it was just as harmful, if not worse. Dr. Howie Garber, one of the UPHE members, emphasized that pollution controls aren't just legal requirements, they save lives. Without them, trucks become, in his words, disease-generating machines. Another member, Dr. Brian Moench, added that diesel exhaust is one of the most dangerous pollutants out there, linked to heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and even birth defects. He accused the Diesel Brothers of showing a callous disregard for public health. Soon, the case went before U.S. District Judge Robert Shelby in Salt Lake City. His ruling was devastating for the Diesel Brothers. The court found that Heavy D, Red Beard, The Muscle, and others had committed around 400 violations of the Clean Air Act, including removing pollution systems, selling devices that allowed others to do the same, and operating those altered trucks. In 2020, Judge Shelby ordered them to pay $848,000 in penalties. Most of it went to the federal government, while $90,000 was set aside for a program to repair tampered trucks in Davis County, Utah. The judge also placed a permanent injunction on them, legally forbidding them from ever removing or selling emissions-deleted trucks again. Interestingly, the lawsuit didn't come from the government at first. It started when those Utah doctors saw the Diesel Brothers' modified trucks on Discovery Channel. Under the Clean Air Act, private citizens and organizations can sue violators directly. To prove their claims, UPHE even bought one of the modified vehicles, a 2013 Ford F-250, and had it tested. The results were shocking. It emitted 36 times more pollution than allowed. They spent $8,500 to restore its emission controls before selling it again. Later, Judge Shelby issued another fine, $760,000, calling their actions flagrant misconduct. The Diesel brothers appealed, but most of the ruling was upheld. The appeals court only asked the lower court to reconsider part of the fine limiting penalties to trucks sold or operated within Utah. Even so, the Diesel brothers were officially warned. Any future violations could lead to contempt of court charges. It was a harsh lesson that fame and business success couldn't shield them from accountability. And while they may have survived the storm, this case marked the beginning of a darker chapter, one that would test their loyalty, their brand, and everything they had built together. The $1 million trademark judgment. The legal battle between Diesel, the Italian fashion powerhouse, and Diesel Power Gear, the Utah-based brand built by David Sparks, David Kiley, and Josh Stewart, began long before most fans even knew it existed. It officially landed in a New York federal court on October 8, 2019, but the two sides had already been clashing for years over trademarks. The Italian company had repeatedly opposed Diesel Power Gear's attempts to register marks like the Diesel Power Gear and Diesel Sellers. When the Utah team kept using those names on apparel and accessories, Diesel finally decided enough was enough and sued. The claim was simple but serious. Diesel Power Gear's use of the name Diesel was infringing on a world-famous brand, diluting its value and violating federal unfair competition laws. To prove it, Diesel's attorneys presented a telling example: a shirt reading Diesel AF printed in bold white letters inside a red rectangle, nearly identical to Diesel's own iconic logo. And that was just one of many designs. According to the lawsuit, hundreds of shirts, hats, and accessories crossed the same line. So, could Diesel Power Gear really keep using Diesel on their clothing? Or did that name belong exclusively to the Italian fashion company? In March 2022, Judge Mary Kay Viscotiel gave her answer. She ruled in favor of Diesel without even needing a trial, stating that there was a clear likelihood of confusion between Diesel Power Gear's branding and Diesel's trademarks. She also noted that Diesel's name was famous and that the Utah company had acted willfully, knowing full well what they were doing after receiving cease and desist warnings. Then came the damage phase, and the numbers got staggering. Diesel claimed Diesel Power Gear had made $65.1 million in gross sales and $59.1 million after returns and discounts. Since the Utah team couldn't prove legitimate deductions or expenses, Diesel asked for nearly the entire amount. Diesel Power Gear argued back, insisting the damages should only apply to products that actually said Diesel on them, not every single thing they'd ever sold. But when Judge Jennifer Rochon took over the case, she disagreed. She ruled that liability wasn't limited to just the shirts. It extended to website branding, social media, ads, hang tags, labels, anywhere the Diesel name had been used to market the brand. The judge also highlighted equity factors that showed Diesel Power Gear acted recklessly, ignoring Diesel's rights and benefiting financially from the name. Since Diesel Power Gear had offered no solid proof of expenses, the court concluded they were liable for the full $59 million in net sales. Still, Judge Rochon admitted that awarding the full amount would be excessive. Diesel hadn't shown proof of direct harm to its own sales or concrete evidence of consumer confusion. So, in the end, she reduced the award by 80%. The final judgment came to $11.8 million, a massive hit, but far less than the original demand. Finally, in December 2023, the court issued a permanent injunction. Diesel Power Gear could no longer use the word diesel or any diesel-related mark socked on clothing or accessories. It was the end of a long and expensive chapter. But for Diesel Dave, another storm was about to begin, one that had nothing to do with business or courtrooms. Diesel Dave finally speaks. On his daughter, Piper's terrible accident, life turned upside down for Diesel Dave when his young daughter, Piper, was involved in a devastating car accident back in September 2020. The crash left her in critical condition, forcing her to spend months in the hospital and undergo one surgery after another. 4 months later, in January 2021, Diesel Dave opened up in a heartfelt video about her recovery. Against all odds, Piper was fighting back, stronger and more determined than anyone expected. Though she faced more surgeries ahead, her resilience amazed doctors and fans alike. The accident had been severe, bad enough that her survival was uncertain in the beginning. But throughout the long recovery, the Kiley family never lost hope. The diesel truck community rallied around them, launching a campaign called Piper Strong. Diesel Power Gear produced limited edition shirts and decals, donating all proceeds to help cover Piper's medical expenses and therapy costs. The tragedy reminded everyone that beneath the fame, jokes, and diesel fumes, these were real people with real struggles. For Diesel Dave, it wasn't just about nearly losing his daughter. It was also about almost losing everything he had built with Heavy D and the rest of the Diesel brothers. Between the lawsuits, the crushing fines, and this unimaginable family tragedy, life tested him in every possible way. After everything he's faced, the lawsuits, the crushing debts, and the heartbreaking moments that nearly tore his world apart, how does Diesel Dave keep finding the strength to move forward? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. And before you go, click on the video that's showing on your screen. You don't want to miss what's coming next.